say from glory? Moses. But he has to do something unusual. Can I make one quick interjection? If you're going to walk with God, prepare yourself for the unusual. God often has to do something unusual to snap us out of the stupor and the slumber and to wake us up to what he's trying to do with us. Because we keep drifting. So this burning bush is just a source, something out of the ordinary, unexpected. And it's how God is best able to reach us. It's how God was able to access Moses. It's how God connected with him. It's how God was able to reach him. He had to use something unusual, something profound, something out of the ordinary, something unprescribed, just something unexpected. It took all of that for God to just get Moses to say, yeah, I am. You called me? But I thank God that he's willing to go to such length to reach us and to get our undivided attention. So first, number one, for God to communicate, the first thing God got to do is get your attention. God is not bilingual, and when you're talking to him, you cannot multitask. Amen. He wants all of your attention because what he got to say, you ain't got time to think about nothing else. You got to focus on what he's saying and him alone. Speaking God's language is the first thing. Is we got to get out. We got to make a connection here. We got to connect. So God uses something. Simply get your undivided attention. As far as I think I'm going to go on that one. Every time you see an unexpected, unusual, unnatural occurrence, it simply means God is trying to get your attention because God is trying to tell you something. He told Moses, he communicated. That's in the story. So for God to say what I want to say, I got to first get your attention. When you see something unusual going on, pay attention because God is trying to tell you something. The unusual is not to frighten you, not to confuse you. It's God's way of trying to get your attention because God is trying to tell you something. That's the first thing that happens in this story. God gets his attention. Now we're going to shift gears. Let's hear where I want to start to drop something else on you. 2. Say this. Power of isolation.
Power of isolation.
I'm going to say it again. Power of isolation.
Power of isolation.
And I'm giving you these pointers in here, and I'll explain them in Sundays to come in more detail. Right now, I'm giving you stuff that you can snatch, grab, write down, relate to it. Remember. So the first line of communication is God has to connect with you. God has to reach you. So to do that, I got to get your undivided attention. Now, following undivided attention, what that leads to is this right here. The power of isolation. I think I put it time alone. Look at this, Exodus 3 again. Look what it says. And Moses led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. I only put that back up there because I want to show you one thing. All of this, now that God has his attention, he got him alone. Isolated him. I'm going to show you the power of isolation. Isolation prevents interference. Say it again. Isolation prevents interference. I put a statement up here because I want you to see this. People often violate you without you knowing it. What am I talking about? They trespass against you. They intrude into your business and affairs uninvited. They interfere in areas that they shouldn't. That's a violation. That's an interference. And the majority of your life where you miss God is because somebody or bodies interfere with your communication with God. Somebody violated, trespassed. Do you think God said that? Do you really believe that's God? I didn't ask you for it. Give me your opinion. Interference leads to misdirection. I forget who the author who quoted this, who said that the relationship God has with man is a normal process that would develop on its own, except for people keep interfering. In other words, if you leave people alone, sometimes they can find God on their own. But we keep interfering with a normal process. Every time you miss God, somebody interferes. And if you can get isolated, you can hear God for yourself. Lift your hand and say thank you. Thank you, Lord. Look what he did. He gets him by himself so he can talk to him without interference. Your biggest problem is outside interference. Can I go a little bit further than this now? I just say this away. You'll do better if you get people out of your ear. See, that's interference. Your walk would be greater if you can get people out of your ear. Unwanted interference is how people violate you every day. Intrude, trespass. Until we can hear God alone, we will never hear him clearly.
Wow.
Say that again. Until we can hear God alone, we'll never hear him clearly. The only way you learn God's voice is really got to be a conversation between you and God. It's got to be just you and God. And what's hindering our walk is the constant interference. You won't learn the language of God until you learn how to get by yourself and talk to God. Learn his voice for yourself. You won't hear him clearly until you learn how to hear him alone. That's where connection and relationship. God gets Moses by himself so he can talk to him without interference and interruption. Move from this point as a woman. Go back in your life. Every time you really miss God, it was because of interference.